All
All
right.
right.
Hello.
So it's just us.
Yeah.
Um, Jenny's feeling better, but she's still got stuff to take care of. So,
We'll send her well wishes.
yes,
Yeah.
well wishes. And all of us are going through some kind of upheaval with getting things out of us,
Yeah.
it seems.
Purge,
So,
cleanse, all that stuff.
all right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's start right in on the list. Start out with a poem that I've already read
Mm-hmm.
to Gina, but I have made some changes. But,
Well, and it's also a poem where if you read it different times, you get additional things. So
yeah.
it's fascinating.
All right. So this one is called "An Apple to Find Within Eve of the Sleep." You came here to search for your apple, that's why, to develop the sight within your third eye. Despite what's written, it was never forbidden, just lost in your eyes, so cleverly hidden. Your search began with a lie of perversion to bury the knowledge in a diversion of coercion. With the act of the bite, minds wiped of insight, sent on a mission to search without vision. It was not an offense in a child's defense to accept as a gift that which was given. Told we were wrong in following along, for making a decision, all part of the mission. Was not punishment in starting this life, but a means of inserting some challenge and strife. Why would our God cloak us in sinning, freshly from dirt in the beginning? No, the spank of his hand, for all its worth, was done out of love, following our birth, guiding us along right from the start, not in our head, but straight to the heart. We've reached the pinnacle a time or two. Some did ascend, but were too few. Then he tore down the walls of those mystical lands, turned over time's glass, restarting her sands, affording her children another chance. She gave all creatures a time to dance. While we were asleep, a slumber so deep, the knowledge we sought, restricted from restricted from thought. Sensing a wall to our enlightened path, he sends out a call, but not of his wrath. It's simply to awaken the shaken, those taken and forsaken from your diversion of coercion, your immersion in conversion. This chance wasn't lent for you to repent, nor grieve time spent, lost in lament. His whispers of heart are now allowed to awaken your spirit to becoming unbowed. These secrets of knowing, not preached from his book, not held overhead, nor baited from hook. They're whispers of missions, long hidden from knowing, a culmination of all your sowing and growing. This is but a reminder, a song to your heart, to remember your vision in playing your part, of why we're all here in facing our fear, a challenge to bear, given God's pair, with nothing to wear, to wade through their lair for an apple so rare. So as you awaken and your minds do clear, keep up your spirits for the ones you hold dear. It's they will remind of a mission to keep, an apple to find within eve of their sleep.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really good. I still find new stuff when you read.
There's so much
There's so
symbology
much
in
in there.
here. I will type this up.
Yeah.
because every time I read it, I still get more. I still go, oh, I could have gone, and I go, no, no, this is where things were resonating with me, and what was calling forth. So
Mm. Yeah, it's very good. It almost has
so
that feeling of freedom too, or something associated
yeah,
with it.
it's
It's like
very,
unlocking.
as I told you before, it's
Mhm.
very important to get the cadence right, because that helps with the unlocking.
Oh my goodness. Sorry. Yeah.
Um, so that helps with the unlocking and the flow of the reading. So hopefully I did it justice.
That was beautiful.
The next one is entitled A Course in Love and Defiance.
Mm.
All the knowledge you'll ever have is locked inside you. We choose which bits to unlock by selecting the triggers as we live in time. Unlocking of knowledge by way of choosing triggers is the experience of life. Outside this living experience, your higher self, with all your knowledge, offers you trigger options in living your path of true intent. There are no coincidences in your life, only options aligning with varying degrees to your higher purpose or intent. Just as there is more than one route from New York to Los Angeles, your life path affords many routes. When your road rides smooth and challenges seem to click in place with less than expected effort, this signifies riding the flow of your intent. Conversely, as your track becomes bumpy and dilemmas seem more pronounced, requiring more and more of your effort, this signals a warning from your higher self that you're veering away from the path of your intent. Your all knowing higher self will always choose the smoother ride out of love, while your lower density ego will opt for a bumpy track out of defiance to your intent. The collection of smooth and rough patches are but yours to choose in navigating a life of love and defiance.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, when you read that, and you read that to me before, I feel like there are those days where it's like everything's getting in your way. And those are the days where, the door's closing here, door's closing there. It's like, okay, back up, see where you are, see where your mind is. Are you in your flow? Yeah.
More than likely, because of where you're at it at that time, your higher self is trying to prevent you from making a bigger
Hmm.
mistake.
Yeah.
It's trying to keep you grounded,
Yeah.
not punished, but
Yeah.
grounded.
Grounded. Well, and the thing is, we have been taught and learned, push through those barriers, but and then that's just it works
That
against your high self.
that's your head.
Yeah.
That makes sense to your head,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't to your heart.
Mm-mm. No.
As I
Mm.
said, the head is a taker, the heart is a giver.
Yeah.
So it's you have the choice,
Mm-hmm.
but with every choice, there's there's consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
the next one is see the world you wish to believe, or live the life of others, the life or live the life others see. Okay, let me read that again.
Mm-hmm.
See the world you wish to believe, or live the life others see.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a world where you could treat any person any way you wanted, and they could do the same to you with relevant consequences. You could believe anything you wanted, and they could too. You could do anything you wanted, and they could too. Now imagine that the only things that matter to you are what happens in your view of the world. And further, only those things that happen in other people's views of their worlds that matter to you are the ones you choose to let into your view of your world. Anything entering your observation or awareness is only as an option to believe.
Mhm.
The only person you had to answer to was you. Imagine still that your whole objective was to construct your world by the way you live and what you believe in, so that at any time your world would be chosen as the only world you and those who matter to you would be allowed to live in. When that day comes, you would present your world to them as is with no excuses. They would forget everything about their worlds and live in your world as you believe them to be. Your only limits are those you believe in. The only alternative on that day is you choose to forget all about your world and you blink into a world of someone else's making and live as someone else believes you should be. So, in your world, do bloodlines matter? How does how much money someone has matter? Does money matter? Can you fly? How about others? Do people work jobs they dislike? Do you? How is government organized? Is there government? Can you breathe underwater? Do you have superhuman powers? What about others? Does your world borrow from Star Trek, Star Wars, Game of Thrones, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Matrix, Kardashians? How is society organized? How is it motivated? Who and what runs your world? Do you need sleep, food, water, love, ambition, hate, wars, TV, social media, bullies? What brings you joy? How often? Is there corruption? Would you let yourself and others live truly free? What does that look like? Would you let yourself have the traits you have admired in others? What are your limits? Do you still have challenges? Why? Do you play it safe? Are you a savior? Superhero? What could you do? What couldn't you do? What could others do? What couldn't they do?
Wow. Yeah, it's
So
interesting.
you can imagine that the questions
Must
can
be,
go on
yeah.
and on and on. But what is that world that you would make, that you would create by just believing in things that you choose to believe in or not,
Mhm.
and by treating people the way you want to treat them in the world that you're creating.
Mhm.
And then one day, possibly someone or many of your loved ones would come join you in your world.
Mhm.
How would that change things of how you're living in your world now?
Mhm. Yeah, if you're creating it for others and for the whole scenario.
But isn't that
Yeah,
what we're doing
we
though?
are.
Otherwise, we're just sitting back living in someone else's world, which is what we've been doing.
Mhm.
Now, granted, we agreed to do that, come here and do that, but I believe we've had the power all along to break out of that and go create our world.
Mhm.
And I believe that's what this calling with these
Mhm.
energies incoming and that are awakening us, I think that's what it's calling for us to do.
Yeah. I often say, or ask, are you happening to life or is life happening to
Yeah.
you? And that's kind of are you living in someone else's world or are you creating the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
So the next one is a meeting in service to others.
Mm.
A meeting was held. Many beings came together, not because they were elected, selected, or ordained, but because a need arose and a calling went out, whereby each role that was needed attracted the person best suited to perform that role, and that person was prepared and willing to provide that service. These people were united in clearing away anything, be it person, place, or thing, that inhibited anyone from flourishing on this planet. Any restriction that anyone had or has on them to listen to their heart and be able to think in that regard would be free to do so. This freeing of the wills wasn't the purpose of the meeting. That was the premise long established for all sentient life. The meeting's purpose was how to go about it on this particular planet under the current set of circumstances without interfering with free will. How does one go about freeing a society locked into dependency, under mind control, and kept in the dark about its true nature without undermining its will? The secret to this, and one the meeting's participants have access to, is not by listening to our words and deciphering our brainwaves, but in deciphering our actions and listening to our hearts. The will of your heart cannot be erased by the enforcement of thought by way of the brain. This is a universal truism and will forever sing from heart to heart for those willing and able to listen and speak from the heart. As such, your collective heart has joined in chorus to sing a song of peace and joy that cannot be ignored any longer by those who claim a life and responsibility of service to others. And hence, this meeting to join in chorus, our hearts in harmony to bring this song to life.
Yeah, I like that. That's the first time I heard that one. Wow.
Well, I told you yesterday,
yeah, the
we
meeting.
were out there, we were awake,
Mm-hmm.
we were out there, and I felt transported. I told her that I was in a meeting, and this meeting was being held in the largest stadium you could ever imagine, and just the playing field of that stadium was bigger than the Superdome, and it was a domed stadium itself. And the bigger stadium had just, other than where the playing field is, where that other stadium is, it was all filled. There was no open air. It was all filled with, consider them all skyboxes. And beings would go to whatever room they felt called to, and within those rooms they would hold meetings. And then if they needed to call in the beings from another room, I don't know how they did it, but it would just like link them together. And it was as if it was, it wouldn't move them. It was just, it was kind of virtual. And it was as if you were sitting in a bigger room then, and with all the people required to be there.
Yeah.
And this was going on simultaneously with other meetings that were going on, and they were just morphing as it would go. And this was that meeting.
That was what came from, or the discussion.
This is what came out of that meeting.
Wow.
Now I could go on and on. How long did I talk about that?
Yeah, it was.
You had to end up going to bed.
Yeah, I was going to sleep. It was like an hour and a half or something. And you still weren't done.
No, there was lots going on in this meeting.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was happening at that moment. And I was in that meeting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So.
It's beautiful.
So that's that one. Make sure I got. Yeah. So that's that one. And I could talk more about that meeting if we choose to do that. Let me read this last one. Okay. Love's wisdom of choice. Keep in mind, you must choose. light over dark, or some other. Your choice will not be made for you in keeping with free will. However, your options will be brought out for all to see. No more
Mhm.
hiding within the shadows, for which some will see these as dark times. They're only dark, though, for those who focus on lack of light,
Mhm.
while many begin to see and feel the shine of their newfound freedom and sovereignty. It will be the coming of the dawn for those who choose to awaken from the eve of their sleep. Yet, even in these times of diminishing shadows, fears will be given voice, free to offer its wares and disrupt the rising whispers of your heart. Your neighbors and loved ones, also under the unveiling of free choice, will reveal their views and beliefs of both dark and light. With all your options laid bare, just remember love's manner doesn't demand, nor does it boast, nor raises its hand. What love does do is give your voice your let me start that again. What
Mhm.
love does do is give your heart voice to express one wish to you. May wisdom be found in your choice.
Mm. Yeah, I like that. Mm. Okay, it links back to the Eve too. Of sleep
It
from the
links back to
first
all of
one.
them. It
Yeah.
links back to all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so interesting because you said that you were talking about transparency, not being able to hide it. Now, I mean, that's already happening with people's intent. You can tell when somebody's talking to you and their heart's open, or when they're just saying words. So you can tell. I mean,
Well,
it's already. Ooh, it's giving me chills.
not everyone can see that.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing is for those who find a way to their heart,
Hmm.
they will begin to see those
Hmm.
things. Those people who are still in their head
Yeah.
are still takers,
Hmm. Yeah.
and they are not of the heart that can do the illogical,
Yeah.
which is see things that are beyond the head.
Hmm.
You'll you'll be able to get a sense of a person,
Hmm.
know whether or not they're actually telling you the truth
Hmm.
or what they believe versus what they know.
Hmm.
You'll know what their intent is towards you.
Hmm.
You'll know if they want something from you, whether it's just your compliance or they want you to believe in what they are telling you.
Yeah.
Um, these are all things of the heart,
Hmm.
and that's what's going to be coming online for those who choose that path.
Hmm.
But like this says, love doesn't demand, it
Mm-mm.
doesn't boast, nor does it raise its hand.
Mm-mm.
What love does do is give your heart voice to express one wish to you. May wisdom be found in your choice.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
gives you choice. It doesn't give you ultimatums
No. No, it doesn't.
because ultimately it your heart wants you to be and choose it, not because it was forced to, but because you chose to be there. You
Mhm.
chose to sing with it
Mhm.
because it doesn't want to have to keep you pinned in. It
Mhm.
doesn't want to have to keep you captive.
Mm-mm.
That's what all the other things do.
Yeah.
The things that can't really have you any other way.
I also kind of feel it's interesting, and you can tell me how your perspective on this, but going back to one of your
Okay.
earlier earlier ones where you were talking about the um how things get in your way is your high self kind of like trying to nudge you back on your path or to wake you up that you're pushing against it. It's kind of like your heart too, because your heart. I mean, it's
Well,
that's
okay.
your tools that your high self's using to say,
Your
"Hey,
your
hey."
your higher self does not speak through your head.
Right.
it speaks through your heart.
Yeah.
As this opens up, you will hear and
Mhm.
feel more of your higher self. And what your higher self is trying to show you is the life that will flow with
Mhm.
your intent,
Mhm.
with why you came here.
Yeah.
Now, but as I said in the other one,
Mhm.
you have a choice
Mhm.
um,
Let your wisdom
to
use.
live between love and defiance.
Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't, your higher self and your heart are not going to make you do these things,
Mhm.
but they also aren't going to pave the way towards things that they know are not in keeping with your will.
Right. Yeah, because when you think about it, in that regard, it's like some if we don't have that perspective, we think those things happening to us are happening against us. And when you think of it in this perspective, we're defying our heart, and therefore we are the ones. It's kind of just trying to tell us, hey, 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 that's not really what you want.
No,
It's really a helper, but we kind of don't see it as that in the moment
no,
because we're in our head. Yeah.
no. Our higher self and through the heart allowed all elements of us
Hmm.
to come out, and that includes our ego.
Yeah.
And so you get to choose. You get to choose from your ego. You get to choose from your head. You get to choose from anything that you feel calls to you.
Hmm.
That's what the heart does. It says
Hmm.
the heart doesn't just give you a few choices.
Hmm.
It gives you all the
Yeah.
choices that are available to you,
Hmm.
and then says, "Go ahead, try them all out,
Choose.
and then
Yeah.
choose what you feel." Meanwhile, we're gonna be here,
Hmm.
your higher self and your heart, um, kind of continually guiding you along, even though you haven't fully, chose us yet.
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It feels really good.
Yep.
And
So,
it makes for an easier life. I mean, if you combine all those things together, I mean, it's almost that's what heaven is, you're creating your own life. You're centered on your heart and living in your heart, which makes things flow for you. It's also very attractive for others that you love to come join you in your story if your story is of that, is of that
mhm.
nature. Um,
And hence that one
yeah,
about um,
it all weaves together.
about um, see the world you wish to believe, or
Hmm.
live the life others see.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
it starts out, and on purpose, with the word imagine.
Hmm. Is our imagination.
Well, it's not that, just it's
Mm,
also
let's see.
John Lennon.
Oh yeah. Imagine all the people.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, does those words of that song, imagine all the people, and everything that flows from that, is
Mm-hmm.
that in your world?
Mm.
Or do you pick
Other, yeah.
another song or
Mm-hmm.
another poem or another thing that to use as
Mm-hmm.
your guiding light? If you have that that picture in your mind of what you want your world to live, to be about, and how it functions, and
Mm-hmm.
how people treat each other, what are you doing anything about it?
Mm-hmm.
Are you not, are you waiting for them to do it for you first, or
Right.
because that's that's not out of love.
Right.
Love doesn't wait for the other person to do it. It goes and does it itself, and says, "Oh, I'll be here. You go ahead. I know you're going to go out and have fun and whatnot. I'm going to be here
Mm-hmm.
building a world that we can all live in."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
So that meeting I talked about,
Mm-hmm.
that's what that meeting was about.
About the world that we're creating.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how can they, without going against free will,
Mm-hmm.
offer their services to us that is still in keeping with free will and universal law, whereby we are free to think and believe whatever we want.
Hmm. I think that's sometimes what came to me just now is that's how they're using dream space because they're
Yeah.
coming in through our dreams. I mean, the information is and the creation and the ideas are coming in through dream time. And then we can choose. We still have the free will to choose in our waking state, what it is we're going to act upon.
Yeah. The one thing that I got the impression from this meeting is, and they all know this and have known it for a long time, is everyone on this planet has forgotten utterly what freedom means.
Mhm.
Because we, as far as we can remember, in this current iteration of us, we cannot remember living in freedom.
Mhm.
Freedom of thought, freedom to do what you please. And freedom to do what you please does not mean infringing on someone else's freedom.
Right.
It's being able to live free while others live free.
Hmm.
How to mesh that.
Yeah.
So we have forgotten. But the reason they're here is because they heard the song of our collective heart, wishing for joy and peace.
Hmm.
And now they feel compelled to do something
Hmm.
without breaking that free will.
Hmm.
So this was the meeting to get to really, they've already had plenty of meetings about this.
Hmm.
This was not a call of warning.
Hmm.
This was a call to action.
Hmm.
All the previous meetings were all um, kind of like a call to come together to think on this and to
Hmm.
offer up solutions and get things out
Hmm.
there and trade
Status
statuses
checks.
and I'll
Yeah.
do all that.
Yeah.
This one was not that.
Mm.
This one was different than all those previous ones. This was a warning order. This was um, a true countdown
Hmm.
to becoming public.
Hmm.
I don't know the time. I don't know the date.
Hmm.
Um, it is so near that when I was in the meeting, I felt as if it already had occurred.
Hmm.
I felt that I was um, living in the time of what they were getting ready to unveil.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it's not going to be an alien invasion
Yeah.
or a pandemic or any of those things. It's not going to be anything out of fear. Not to
Mm.
say that there isn't going to be fear, because as I
Yeah. Yeah.
said in
People will,
here,
choose.
people have a choice.
Hmm.
And people who are going to call these dark days, that's because they're focused on the lack of light.
Hmm.
That's going to happen.
Yeah.
And people are going to see that, the ones that want to see that.
Hmm.
And they have free will to do that.
Yeah.
But many others are going to start seeing and believing and realizing that their life is more than what it's been,
Hmm.
more than what was relegated to them.
Hmm.
And they're going to start seeing the shiny.
Hmm. Excuse me. It makes me think of, I find myself saying a lot to people that's not in my world, because it's like you get confronted and you go, okay, what is it that I'm going to bring into my space, and what is it am I not going to bring into my space? because they're going to see that world. It talks about what other people see. They're going to see the world that they see. It's not me to convince them that there's another world,
No,
but
this
it's
is
also not my. I don't need to bring their world into my world.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't about convincing
Mm-mm.
people. This is about shining the light of options. You don't have to live in darkness.
No.
You don't have to live in fear. You don't have to live with corruption. You don't have to live
Mm-hmm.
enslaved to someone else's idea of their world.
Mm-hmm.
You can now start opening your heart and building your own world
Mm-hmm.
according to your true intent.
Yeah.
What sings to your heart? What does that sound like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like? How do people treat each other in that world?
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to come to us. And I believe you're right. Dreams are a way, but I believe that's been happening, and that will
Mm-hmm.
continue. But
Yeah.
I also believe that what some people are going to perceive as dark days are just the unveiling and the pulling of all the
Mm.
hidden things that have been hiding in the shadows out into the light.
Yes.
And that's going to have a lot of people scrambling.
Yeah.
Those people who wish to keep those things hidden from us.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
this is not evil rising.
no.
This is goodness rising. This is true freedom rising.
Mm-hmm.
We have to see what our options are.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I don't, people don't want to see all the options.
Mm-mm.
Can you just show me the good options?
Yeah.
A good according to who?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing, is you decide what's good.
Mm-hmm.
What was been shown to us is there someone else's idea of good and evil.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Now we get to define it in our world. What is good? What is evil?
Mm-hmm.
What is wanted? What is not wanted?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you think about the dark and light and what's coming as far as the clearing goes, oftentimes, anytime you purify something or clear something, that you have to get the gunk has to come out. It has to bubble up and be able to be seen and yeah, I just had that conversation today with somebody about what's happening in the world and things, and I was like, you can either look at it and be fearful, or you can look at it and say, thankfully this is surfacing so we can see it and do something with it or release it for good and not have to have it within our beings.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, like I said in that last item, um, yet even in these times of diminishing shadows, fears will be given voice,
mhm,
free to offer its wares and disrupt the rising whispers of your heart.
mhm,
Your neighbors and loved ones also, under the unveiling of free choice, will reveal their views and beliefs of both dark and light.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So now it's seeing what's out there. Some will already know what they sort of want. They'll
Mhm.
know they'll know what they don't
Yeah,
want.
exactly.
And they won't sit there and harp about what they don't want
Right.
because you're just giving it energy then.
Mhm.
They'll just avoid what they don't want. They're not turning a blind eye to it. They're recognizing as an observer, yes, that is an option.
Mhm.
But they are already marking it off their list of no, I don't want that.
Not in my reality, not
Right.
in my world. Yeah, yeah. You mentioned sparklies, made me think I just saw the sparklies in this thing. That yeah, seeing the sparklies and things.
Yeah. Well, what she's talking about is for a long time, I was getting these in my vision. I was getting these little specks, and they were mostly either see-through or they were gray or dark, maybe even black. And I would get one or two, and then they started multiplying, it seemed, and I started getting a lot of them,
Mhm.
to where they started occluding my vision, and that went on for quite a while.
Mhm.
And then just recently, within the last couple of months, they started becoming lighter, lighter, kind of in weight, lighter in feel, lighter in color. And now they've gotten to a point where they're like sparklers.
Mhm. They're kind of playful too, is the energy I feel when
Yeah,
you
they're
talk
like
about them. Yeah.
sprites. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they flitter around in my vision, and I cannot look at a blank, wall or blank background of something without seeing them.
Mhm. Yeah.
But they're no longer dark. Not that occasionally there might be some, but
Mhm.
most of them now are all. I would imagine looking up in the sky at night, no clouds, and you see all those stars.
Mhm.
Well, imagine where it's dark. That's your normal view of what you see during the day, but the stars are there.
Mhm.
Well, that's kind of what I get. Some of them poke through, some of them don't,
Mhm.
but they're moving.
Mhm.
And some of them flare, and some of them, and then back off, and then, but they're moving kind of like sparklers
Mhm.
or sprites.
Yeah, and they're not floaties. You know what floaties are. I
No,
mean, they're
they're not
not
floaties.
those. Yeah.
No, I used to wear contacts.
Yeah.
I know all about floaties and whatever. It's
Yeah.
they're not there. I've done that where I sit there and try to move my and try to get them what no.
Mhm.
So, but
Yeah.
they feel light. These feel light compared to when I was unsure of when they were dark and
Mhm.
gray and stuff like that. I wasn't sure what they were.
Mhm.
Um, some of them even looked like black holes. I mean,
Mhm.
the way they were coming in.
Mhm.
Um, but now they've almost all turned um, turned light.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. You see the sparkles.
yeah, so I'm sparkly.
Sparkly. Yeah. Yeah, so for this, prior to came up for me too, and just came up again was on the thinking about the world that we were trying to create. That portion of it reminded me of Reese. Well, it's been a little while ago, but there was a group of us, some of my friends and I. We did a vision, like a meditation, and tried to envision what we would think of a community being like if our hearts, just what our hearts desired. And then we described it, and it was fascinating because we all described the very same community. Each of us were feeling in our heart and how it would transpire and how it would be. And it was like we all had the very same, and though we hadn't talked about it before we did the envisioning, but we described the same kind of living spaces, the same kind of interactions. It's really fascinating. So collectively, when you said they're responding to our heart's cry or our heart's desire to bring in joy and peace, it's that kind of resonating from many, many, many of us all at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, because that kind of visioning comes from the heart,
Yeah.
and we all have a sense of that,
Mm-hmm.
but it just gets occluded over with the thinking from our brain.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, the brain is constantly trying to throw different options and different things at us to take us away from our true intent
Mm-hmm.
and our free will.
Well, kind of goes back to a video one or two times ago, which is our heart training our brain, because our brain throws stuff at our heart like, here, let's do that. Here, let's do that. What about this? Until we get to the point where the brain will listen to the heart, and the heart can say, not that, but how about this? And, direct the brain. Then you can, they work in concert that way together.
Yeah, well, that's the time that we were in,
Mm-hmm.
was the brain constantly, picking things, and the heart not saying no,
Right.
but just remaining kind of quiet to give us the options to pursue all these things.
Mm-hmm.
What I believe is happening now is the heart is getting its voice back,
Mm-hmm.
and it will, it won't defend anything. It won't demand anything. It will just start providing a vision of the things that would be in keeping and resonate with our true intent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's our head becoming quieter and our heart more or less on an even playing field, so that we truly have a choice. Whereas before we haven't really had a choice, because how many times have we, well, you could go do this, yeah, but that requires money, or I'd have to move, and then we just talk ourselves right out of it.
Yeah.
Well, those limits are going to be either completely diminished or reduced so substantially that you can now really consider all the options.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, the money system has to be
repurposed.
Yeah.
I guess it's like
Let's just say redone. I mean, money does not work in our favor. It never was meant to. It was a way. It was money equals our shackles. That's what it is. It was never for our highest good. It was for someone else's will on us.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because it takes the heart out of it, right? So when you're exchanging something and you're personally exchanging something, that's a heart thing. You're giving of something and receiving of something. But the minute it goes into some abstract object, and that abstract object is separated from the heart, it changes the whole flow and life of whatever it is that you're doing.
I think I even mentioned this a while ago. It reminded me the first Christmas. This wasn't when I was a child. I was a little bit older. I think I was in my teens. The first Christmas where I pretty much didn't get any gifts to open. They were all gift cards. Now, I'm not complaining. I'm making an observation. And
felt different, huh?
It felt completely different. But again, even the gift giving is all still is still part of the system. This system that we've been living hasn't been the world of our dreams. It's been the world of someone else's dream.
And we agreed to play in it.
And we agreed to play in it. Now we are awakening to this in the eve of our sleep. And dawn is now upon us.
Yes.
And now we will begin to see in all their glory the options available to us. And all the strings attached and everything, so that we can make either well-informed decisions or heartfelt decisions. It's yours to choose. There's no one's going to come tell you, no, you can't do that. Or someone might do that, but they don't have a right to do it.
No.
That doesn't mean they won't. If they only get away with it if you let them.
Yeah, because you have a right not to listen.
Yeah, exactly. So
beautiful, babe.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that. Anything further for this one?
No,
you good?
That's pretty good. I'll write up whatever. I'll see what strikes me. I'll at least write up the poem and see what else pulls on me to write up, because all of it's
usually not too long.
It's not. Yeah, they give you 5,000 words, and the last couple of times I've written everything up, it was well over that, like by 1,500 to 2,000 words over. So I end up having to scale it down. So there's no way this is going to fit in there, because I mean it's
too long.
It's all of that.
Yeah.
It's
At
this is 7, 8 pages.
least, yeah.
There's no way it's going to fit in
And you
this.
write small, so it's
And I write small.
it's
Yeah.
not, it's not like big print. But
Yep.
well, let's go. You guys create. Let's create our worlds, and and create our art pieces and play.
You,
Let's play.
whether you know it or not, you're ready to do so.
Yeah.
You're just doing it in whispers. You're doing it
Tentatively.
tentatively. Now's the time the universe starts infusing confidence in us. How you use that confidence is up to you. So
yeah.
but
So
we
can't wait to see it.
start
and play.
Start shining your light,
Mm-hmm.
or the lack of.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's your choice.
yep.
Yeah, it's your choice. But all right, love you. Bye.